ප්‍රවීණත්වයෙන් නවීනත්වයට GFU Sri Lanka.
When the rays of the sun, rising over the northern horizon, filtering through the fronds of the palmyra palms spread over the land, the sandy soil begins to shimmer. The verdant green turns to a bright emerald green. The land in the north of Sri Lanka is immensely fertile, a land reminiscent of the legendary Northern Isle. 3 decades ago, this was a rich and fertile land which was given to large-scale agricultural production. The common expectation of the people here was to receive the continued blessings of their guardian gods and goddesses, saints and angels. The people of the Tamil, Sinhala and the Muslim communities lived side by side here in the north, as elsewhere in the island, in harmony and contentment.
ஒரு 30 வயதளவில் ஞாபகம் இருக்குது. இந்த ஸ்ரீலங்காவில் நாங்கள் என்ன மாதிரி வாழ்ந்தோம் என்றதை நினைக்கக்குள்ள பெரிய ஒரு வேதனையும் துன்பமாக இருக்குது. என்ன பிரச்சனைன்னு சொன்னால், நாங்கள் ஒரு பரந்த வட்டத்துக்கு இல்லை, எங்களோட ஒரு இனம், அடுத்தது சிங்களாக்கள், தமிழாக்கள், முஸ்லீம் எல்லாமே சேர்ந்து உண்டாக தொழிற்பட்டு உண்டாக கொடுக்கலாங்கள் செய்து ஒரு பள்ளிக்கூடத்தில் படித்து மிக சந்தோஷகரமாக நாங்கள் வாழ்ந்த காலங்கள். அப்போ அந்த காலப்பகுதியில் எங்களுக்கு எந்த விதமான ஒரு குறைபாடுகளும் இங்கே இருக்கையில்.
Then arose the political provocations, which erupted into violence, disrupting the hitherto prevalent peace and harmony. Acrimony and provocations arose out of hidden personal political agendas. The ordinary men and women were drawn into the maelstrom through diabolical deception and misinformation and manipulation. The future of 3 generations of children of the North was blown away in smoke.
சில காலங்கள் கூடியதாக இந்த பல இயக்கங்கள் இதுகள் அப்படியான பிரச்சனைகள் ஏற்பட்ட பிறகு எங்களுக்கு நிம்மதி என்ற சாமானங்கள் இருக்க இல்லை.
Mainstream democratic political activities were totally and completely sucked into the vortex of inhuman and barbaric violence, shattering normal, civilized and peaceful life in the north, heralding the state of terror unleashed by a psychopath.
எங்கள்கிட்ட ஒவ்வொரு வெள்ளாண்மைக்கும் காலபோகத்துக்கு இவ்வளவு நெல் தரணும், செருபோகத்துக்கு இவ்வளவு நெல் தரணும் என்று கட்டாயமாக வேண்டுவாங்க. 1 கிலோ கிழங்கு சரி பவனியாந்து கொண்டு போனால் அதுக்கு வரி கொடுக்க வேணும்.
அங்கே இருந்த ஒவ்வொரு நிமிஷமும் மரண பயத்தில் தான் நாங்கள் வாழ்ந்து வந்தோம். எல்டிடி இரும்பு கரங்கொண்டு மக்களை அடக்கினது. எங்களை மாதிரி யூத்ஸ் இளைஞர்கள் அனைவரையுமே தன் இரும்பு கரத்தை கொண்டு அடக்கி போர்மனை கொண்டு போய் பல எங்களுடைய இளைஞர்களை பலி கொடுத்து விட்டது.
Having corrupted the minds of the youth for decades and forcing them to sacrifice their lives to fulfill the impossible dreams of a man with a deranged mind, the LTTE began to forcibly conscript children to augment depleting cadre, with total contempt of all accepted international laws and norms in regard to child and human rights.
அக்காக்கள் ரோட்டில் இது போகலாது இயக்கம் வந்து பிடிச்சி கொண்டு போயிருந்தோம்.
இப்போ 18 வயதுக்கு மேலே பிள்ளையில பிடிச்சி கொண்டு போனாங்க. அது இல்லாமல் கல்யாணம் முடித்தாலும் கெட்பனையார்களையும் பிடிச்சி கொண்டு போகிறாங்க.
பிள்ளைகளை பலவந்தமாக பாடசாலையிலிருந்து அதாவது வெள்ளை உடுப்பில் யூனிஃபார்ம்லேயே அவர்களுடைய வாகனங்களில் ஏற்றி கொண்டு சென்ற சம்பவங்கள் பல நடந்திருக்கின்றன.
A land is plunged into an abyss of despair and desolation by a man turned misanthrope, seeking a bloody crown in an empty dreamland. In the year 2006, the LTTE, with its own hands, put the noose round its own neck. They closed the sluice gate on the Marvilaru, cutting off water to hundreds of acres of land belonging to people of all three major communities. Virtually, an act akin to strangling. The resulting gasp of the people whose very life depended on the Marvilaru water was the one last provocation that spurred a president and his government to action, calling the high-handed and arrogant action, enough is enough. So began the humanitarian operation to rid the land of the LTTE terror and to free the people of the north and east who were under a brutal regime, and thus create the groundwork and the conditions for all the people of the land to live with dignity and freedom, which is the sacred duty of every democratically elected government. And it only took a brief period of time to put on the run a terrorist organization branded as one of the most powerful in the world. The operation was in every sense of the word truly a humanitarian operation, because it was to free a people oppressed and suppressed for 30-odd years, and to provide them with the opportunity to lead a normal life with dignity and freedom, and to work out their own destiny, and to create conditions for the people of the rest of the country to live in harmony, without fear, suspicion, or acrimony. The stream of people coming away from the combat-free zone, where the LTTE, in violation of all norms of civilized human behavior, have kept them as a human shield, reminds one of another exodus of a people seeking freedom. The warmth with which these hapless men, women, and children are being received and treated and cared for by the Sri Lanka Army, and the expressions of relief on the faces of this unfortunate people when they reach the safety of the land liberated from the LTTE, their oppressors, eloquently proclaim to the world the humane nature of an army in a combat zone where their lives are constantly in danger. These men, women, and children, fleeing from the LTTE amidst a rain of bullets, are coming over to the army-liberated areas because they have immense trust and confidence in the Sri Lanka military, that they will be cared for and protected. It is incumbent on the government to provide food shelter, clothing, and all other basic necessities to these people who have lost everything they owned. It is not an easy task for any government to meet all the basic needs of such a large number of people within a short period of time. The Sri Lankan government anticipated the mass exodus and prepared for them temporary shelters and made arrangements to provide them with food and medicine. In the proximity of Vaunia, a number of relief camps have been established. The government is providing all the basic needs of these people who are being accommodated in the camps. The smiles on the faces of the displaced people, now accommodated in the camps, express a sense of relief felt by them. The combat-free zone established to allow the civilians caught up in the combat zone turned to a living hell when the LTTE entered the area and held the people as a human shield. The displaced persons, now accommodated in the temporary camps, now have a sense of relative contentment and freedom which they had not felt before. The government has created village complexes in places of the traditional clusters of shelters for the displaced. 4 such village compounds have been established where attempts are being made to provide all the basic amenities to be found in a village. Space for shops, schools, cooperative stores, libraries, healthcare centers, cultural centers, and recreation grounds are all being provided in these locations. So basic material and social needs are being met in these compounds. Three family units have a common open space for them to grow flowers, vegetables, or any plants they fancy. What they in reality are planting are the seeds of contentment, harmonious living, and freedom. These camps are mini villages. Here are provided for the displaced citizens all the basic facilities and an environment for peaceful living.
நிறைய வந்து எங்களுக்கு ஒரு பிரச்சனையும் இல்லை. இங்கே நல்லா நாங்களாம் உடுத்தின உடுப்போட தான் வந்தோம். நாங்கள் எங்களுக்கு இங்கே வந்து நல்ல உடுப்பு சாப்பாடு இல்லாதனாங்க ஒரு பிரச்சனையும்.
நாங்கள் இராணுவத்திட்ட வந்து சரணடைஞ்சதால எங்களோட உயிர் வந்து இப்போது காப்பாற்றப்பட்டிருக்கு.
Here are provided facilities for 1,200 children to get an education. Classes for preschool children and for those of school-going age from grade 1 to 13 are being catered for. 118 teachers are working with the children. All of them are from the ranks of the displaced.
Eating sugar, no papa. Telling lies, no papa.
Sri Lanka is perhaps the only country in the world, while being engaged in a war, is continuing to provide all the material support to those held in the enemy territory, and all the material, spiritual, and emotional support to all the others who are caught up in the war zone. is examination time for the displaced students. The youth in the LTTE held territory did not have access to training for any kind of vocation. They were forcibly conscripted to the ranks of combatants. Thousands of youth and children were sacrificed in the name of a false liberation. Although the state continued to pay to maintain and run educational and vocational training institutions within the areas under the control of the LTTE, the children and youth were denied access to them. Today, the state is providing vocational training for all those youth now living in the villages for the displaced. This is done as a way of rehabilitation and providing an opportunity to become useful citizens of the country. In the village complex is a post office, which enables the people to be in constant communication with their kith and kin. A library is another facility that is established here. Most would have had no such access during the course of the last 30-odd years. This medical post is manned by 2 doctors and caters to the immediate medical needs of the displaced residents. An ambulance service is being run to transfer those who cannot be treated at the village center to other, better equipped medical institutions. A number of shops are being run to cater to the needs of the residents. The residents are, however, provided basic food rations, free. A banking service is also provided in the residential locations. The government is committed to and duty-bound to provide all the basic facilities for the displaced citizens and to see that the needs of the residents are being met. Constant monitoring is done by the visits of the senior members of the government.
நாங்கள் எங்களுடைய ஜனாதிபதி மஹிந்த ராஜபக்சன் தலைமையின் கீழ் இருக்கிற அரசாங்கத்தை நம்பிதான் நாங்கள் இங்கே வந்திருக்கிறோம். அவர் எங்களுக்கு நல்ல ஒரு எதிர்காலத்தை அமைச்சு தருவார் என்று நாங்கள் முற்றுமுழுதாக நம்பி இருக்கிறோம்.
For children who over the last 3 decades or so have had no opportunity to live a carefree life of a child enjoying the joys of a normal childhood, but were compelled to live a distorted life of child combatants, this park is an oasis for healing their bodies and minds. For 30-odd years, the Tamil-speaking people of the north, trapped within the confines of the LTTE-held territory, had to live with suppressed emotions. Here one can see the overflowing joy of the release of their pent-up emotions.
காப்பவன் என்பதாகும் சைவ சவித்தாகும் கடவுளை இரு பிரிவுகளாக கடவுளாக கொண்ட
The era when it was prohibited even to light up, even a bottle lamp in the night, has come to an end. To read under a light of an electric bulb must be a joyful new experience. They can now dream of an enjoyable and attainable future. For a long, long time, they did not have the joy of sitting together as a family and taking their evening meal. Their evenings were one of darkness and haunting fear. From the tormented hearts, no soothing lullabies could even be whispered to calm the infants crying in fear of the darkness. The government is fully aware of its duty and responsibility to look after its displaced citizens till they're resettled in their original locations and homes. It also has a duty and a responsibility to rehabilitate the LTTE cadres who have surrendered themselves to the forces. The government believes it will succeed in this undertaking too, the way they succeeded in the Eastern Province. As Tennyson said, the day that the war drums will be heard no longer will dawn sooner than later, and the forces will go back to their peacetime barracks, and the people of the North will join the democratic process from which they were forcibly cut off. They will join the rest of their fellow citizens of the country to build a united and prosperous Sri Lanka, where the minds will be free of fear, uncertainty, bitterness, and mistrust. And all people of the land will have the right and opportunity to live in dignity and freedom and join hands for a bright future for their children to come.